Jeff, I think for the first time in my life, I'm thinking twice about flying.
We're going on a cruise in a couple months, and my wife was already talking about, do you want to drive? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take my chances.
I guess it's a sign of how blessed we are and how advanced this world is that we don't think about it in that way because we don't have these, issues very frequently. But I mean, this tragedy that we saw in Washington, D.C., and then a few days later,
Philly, right?
In Philly.
Yeah.
It does bring you pause.
Yeah.
And I almost started treating these little quick trips I was doing, the last couple of years, which I love doing these little quick hop, jump flights as it's like get on a taxi and just going and don't even think twice about it. And, it is somber, a somber way to start a show, but it's the news of what we're seeing.
Absolutely.
And, I heard for those families and those communities that have been just devastated by the impact, especially I can't say especially, both numbers don't really make the difference. It's a tragedy either way, Yeah.
I have lately, even on this last flight that I was on last weekend, I go in and I pay for an upgrade so that I could sit in the first row. I always want to sit, because there's nobody in front of me. You got a lot more leg room.
You want a first class joint?
Southwest, not first class.
But like first, that in the front of the cabin.
Yeah, but now I'm almost, because it's statistically, if you sit further in the back. So I'm like, I'm start paying to sit in the last row.
I just want Jesus to take me. Yeah.
So
and I've been there, and it's a tough thing to have to face, and to look at and see the devastation, and the rescue workers and the people that have to try to make a sense of it all. But I feel like you want to be as safe as possible. You want to do whatever can make you safe, but I mean, at the end of the day, man, I mean, the miracle of flight is a miracle until it's not anymore. And it just becomes a devastating
you just sitting on there
situation.
and you watching yourself take off, and you're in the air, and I mean, it's really nothing you can do at a moment of of tragedy like that. There's you always think, well, maybe if I'm sitting next to the door, I'll jump out, and ain't none of that.
No, none of that's happening. And on the side of the medical transport, which is even worse in a way, because you're doing this to try to rescue someone's life. And they're crashing in like a little neighborhood next to a mall, I guess, is where that occurred. And that's a whole family or a whole crew of people again who were there. So I mean, it's something that makes us think about. But the crazy thing is, like, the world doesn't really stop turning. But the commentary, and that's what I kind of want to touch before we go to our first things first, that the commentary that surrounds it, then I will give my gripe at the prophets out there. And I saw one, and it's a person who has said, I don't know this person, it's just shared, some prophet everybody likes to follow, and literally starts to do that whole, the plane won't crash if God's anointed people are on it. And to keep myself from saying some very, very ugly words on that page.
Wow.
I just blocked the person altogether, not my friend, but the person's page, because I didn't even want to see that.
That's horrible.
And to me, what are you saying? How bad is your theology? So are we saying that anointed people have never been on these planes?
Was not Miles Monroe? Did not Miles Monroe?
Miles Monroe.
Come on. Yeah. I mean, how much more anointed can you get?
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I said it before. I mean, whether it's COVID, any national tragedy, when you start to declare and decree all this extra stuff, especially after the fact, if you're that prophetic, then call them folk and tell them to ground the plane before they take off. If you got that much prophetic power, then call them pilots up and say, I see something in the heavenlies and you shouldn't fly today. So I hate that. I speak fully against it. I do believe in God's protection. I believe that he does protect people for a purpose. But first of all, to tie that in the middle of grief.
Right.
Like, you wasn't talking about that until this happened. So that's, to me, a form of ignorance.
What do you say to, especially if somebody family member who's on that, and maybe they are Christians, maybe they do. Just because they might not be this popular pastor does not mean they don't pray every night. Don't mean that they don't love God.
Or super deep like you, and you over here, that I just despise that thinking and that mentality. And the fact that we share it and people are like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay. And you know what? When your loved one dies in an auto accident, how would you like it if somebody came up and preached that sermon to you?
Right.
And I wish we could be more sensitive and discerning instead of looking for clicks and likes and the sound, super deep. Because last time I checked, I've seen bishops and apostles and prophets all get sick and die.
Absolutely. Daily.
I mean, they have perfected. Matter of fact, funny thing about it, there's so many bishops and apostles and prophets died that there's whole consultants on how to do Episcopal homegoings. And I literally saw a flyer online I am your Episcopal homegoing specialist. I can help you with all of the protocol and the planning and how to do all this extra special stuff that we're now seeing, when pastors die and the extra cloths and the adjutants and all these things. And so now you're making an industry.
Monetary.
Yeah, you're making an industry out of burying God's most anointed souls while at the same time acting as if they can't die and they're invincible and impervious to death.
Absolutely.
That doesn't make it, it doesn't make any sense. And so we got to stop talking out of both sides of our mouth,
I am happy that I'm not happy, but that they were able to find the black box and they were able to find all that, and hopefully they can get some answers. I was watching a little bit this morning as they were saying that the helicopter, they asked the helicopter, do you see this plane? And the helicopter basically said yes.
He said yes.
We see it. But
they think that he saw a different plane.
Yeah, that's what somebody else said.
He had seen another plane go by, and he thought that was it. They said it may have been another
plane. Yeah.
They said he thought he had seen another, because it's a very busy airport.
Right.
And that, another plane. And, I've sat out, especially in the busier airports like a JFK, and I've been in some of those busy, Atlanta, of course. I mean, the way they're coming and going.
It's amazing, actually.
It's a miracle.
More crashes don't happen.
They said there's been a bunch of near misses, and these people have been warning them. They're short on aircraft traffic controllers.
Yeah, they said it was
understaffed.
One, because it's supposed to be one for helicopters and one for planes.
In that case, they were supposed to be separated. He was doing both.
Yeah, but they said which is allowed. So it's not it's not that they can't do it, but it's just
I wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend it. And like they said, they have people working long hours. And, we forget that in what we think are very, very specialized occupations, the same stress that we might have at our steel mill or at the retail store of you got people where there's low worker morale.
Absolutely.
There are times where you're understaffed, so the people left have to work all these doubles. And all this frustration, and it's burning them out, or people are quitting, or they're calling off sick on purpose. All the same things that happen in any workplace are happening at the same time in these highly specialized fields.
Absolutely.
And so we think there are these magical people who are under these perfect circumstances when they're just as stressed out, going through everyday things, distracted, and of course going through like we said, with the understaffing, the stress of that job being what it is, and supervisors and having to fill in for others or do things you're not fully trained to do.
Absolutely.
I
couldn't imagine flying a red eye, you know what I mean? Half tired. I go to steel mill at 11 o'clock and I'm like, man.
Yeah, we worried about people not having their energy to build our cars right.
Right.
I mean, how would you feel about somebody who's not paying full attention to planes coming in? I mean, because they're weary. I concur. We had to reach out and try to get the sponsor for Most Anointed Homegoing Service, the Episcopal Specialists. See if they want to be sponsors.
What's your worst flight experience? Have you guys ever had a...
When I was with him.
Yeah. Coming back from Nashville.
He's coming back from Nashville. Man, they said good the pilot started the flight off with, the good thing is...
Was it coming back or going down?
I don't remember, but they said the good thing is it's a short flight. The bad thing is we're going to go through some turbulence.
It's going to be it's going to be a turbulent flight.
And turbulence be scary, man.
And here's what made it worse. I was literally having this mysterious tailbone pain. I was feeling it on the way to the airport when I drove us up. And I was having this mysterious tailbone pain, right at my tailbone. And every time that joint jumped us up and down. It was like torture.
Listen, you know, I got Cinnabons.
Straight torture.
I got Cinnabons on my...
Yes.
And the Cinnabons
flying everywhere. They flew up in the air.
Flew up in the air. I was like, oh. We was looking at each other like, oh, this is great.
I have never really in my life felt like more than a couple of dips. You hit air pockets and stuff. I've never really felt like this plane is out of control.
Where you just drop.
Until that time. Because it was like rock. I mean, it was literally rocking like a bus on a mountain pass. I mean, it didn't make no... I'm like, planes ain't supposed to do this.
And I had Cinnabon stuff all over my clothes trying to get off. I was like,
and the bad thing about that, when you do take those shorter flights, you know, and I think that was something, because I fly American Airlines and they always have those smaller jets.
Yeah.
For these shorter flights, and so they're more acceptable. You know, the larger ones like smooth, like a doggone Cadillac. You know what I mean? You're just floating up there, but them small ones.
Yeah, you feel everything.
Oh yeah. Oh, KK. Now before this one in Nashville, Shamika and I had a red eye home from Las Vegas. Had a phenomenal time in Las Vegas years ago, and it was a cramped flight with like 3 crying babies.
Oh man.
Like 3 crying babies. That's right on our row around us. And one was kicking us. One was kicking us. And it had one of the mothers like, if you don't punch that kid in the face, I'll do it for you. I mean, it was a bad experience. But again...
Well, you know it's bad when they say we're not giving out drinks right now because the turbulence is too bad. I knew
we're not serving you. We're strapping up. You watching them strap up? They up there praying. Like, wait a minute.
I always pray, man. I always
I do. I pray.
When I'm walking on, and then when I put my seatbelt on, I even do one of these.
You do all the religions.
You go Catholic, Baptist.
You do everything.
Start speaking in tongues.
Listen, Buddhist for a minute. Well, prayers to those families, and you know. We'll talk about this a little bit more later, but, you know, the comments from people who should be leading and comforting, who just says this is probably DEI, this is probably diversity. A black person probably caused this plane or transgender or whatever.
Blame it on the president who ain't sat in the office in, 8 years?
I don't get it, you know.
Come on, man.
Well, welcome to Religiously Incorrect, y'all. We're already well into it. You know, we appreciate you guys joining. I want you to tune in. Make sure you tag somebody. Tell them to come on in. We're really grateful that you're with us. And, you know, we want to kind of segue into this. We don't have like an opening thing right now, right? We're cool. We're good?
Yeah, we're good.
I want to make sure. Yeah. Okay. Because I know I always just keep going and then we start missing people. But brother, it's been a few weeks.
Yeah, it's been a few.
Since your president got elected.
Listen, not me, Doc, not mine.
I mean,
my God,
we are in the age of executive orders.
I mean, somebody posted, will somebody take the pen away from him? just take the
Sharpie away.
Take the Sharpie.
Take the Sharpie
Lord
away.
Have mercy.
I mean, I get a lot of promises have been made, and I take this person's, you know, agenda seriously. You know, he obviously has an agenda. There is a strong push. And, you know, one of the things that I just look at in perspective is that these, we are in very, very divided times, and people are very passionate about where they're at. And his supporters, people who voted for him, were desperate for him to enact these things. Now, what it is he's enacting, you know, and what it actually can do or cannot do, like this complete spending freeze.
Right.
You know, there's a lot. Thank you, Marlon. January was a very long year. I mean, it felt like a whole year. Good to see you, Bishop Bowman. But to see, like, we're just going to stop all spending and even previously approved grant funding to everything from school lunches to Medicaid to, I mean, and chaotic.
Chaotic. In my opinion, the dude is literally throwing out the dice, and whatever it lands on,
throwing spaghetti at a wall.
If we let it go, it's gone.
Well, here's my overarching thing that I won't even take time to get to. I believe that they are just throwing these things, like you said, the dice, but also seeking to totally move the needle in the context of what is radical and unthinkable. Like if you just do the most unthinkable things, then the things that are just horrible things,
right.
we'll act like we compromised and like we beat him back. It will still be in what's actually horrific.
Horrific. That's it.
Because you have moved it. Like, they rescinded that executive order. There is obviously confusion there, and I'm not against at all re-examining spending programs. It is well known. Like, even in the military and other places, that fraud does exist in the Medicaid system. You got people, with government contracts, which often don't get touched,
right?
Because they are donors, but they're like selling like lotion you can get at Dollar General for like $500 a bottle to the military.
To P. Diddy.
Right. Baby oil. P. Diddy Enterprises is selling all this baby oil to the Army, because he has such a large stock of it. Thank you. A senator saying that it's not bad to take away school lunches because this guy was like, I worked when I was a teenager, as if, 6-year-olds are going to go work. But I do believe there is wasteful spending. I really do believe it. And I believe that there should be a hard charge at it. I'm just one of those guys. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying that to come like a bull in a china shop and just throw all these executive orders out. And that's where the danger, when we talk about the presidency. Good to see you, Sister Hope. Hey, Pastor Matt, good to see you. When you talk about the power of the presidency, it's really not even about the pen as much as it is what is the pen is designed to do, which is to get these things in front of judges that he has appointed, who will find any old legal, Olympics and workaround, but at least again move the needle. Even if it loses, it moves the needle.
Because we know he is not dumb by a long shot. Mm-mm. He is not dumb. He understands that he does not hold the purse. He understands that. He understands laws. So I mean, he's like you said. I tend to agree with you right now.
I don't believe he understands laws.
Not laws, but
he understands around him.
Right, but he understood he wasn't able to do that. So I'm like, you just throwing stuff out there so that some of these more, like you said, lesser evils, will just get passed by.
They won't seem bad. They won't.
I just believe we are in an.
And to that. And now you have the ICE raids going on.
I think they said 15,000 per day.
Bro, listen.
15,000 per day. That is their quota.
But here's the thing. They're raiding workplaces. So how many lazy people and criminals and freeloaders are working? And they're saying that the percentages of, we talked about this last week, the percentages of the workers who are just not showing up to work.
Right. They were saying up in LA that half these people, the ones that was working on the farms, just aren't coming. They ain't coming because they don't want to get busted.
Well, I hope we have our freedom papers. I mean, I hope, I need to start carrying my birth certificate. We were joking, man. Hey, if your family just favor, I got the little Indian look at that little Mexican. If you got any kind of look to you, you better carry your birth certificate, social security card, a picture
passport,
of you, a Photoshop picture of you smiling with President Trump. You need all that.
They're raiding the schools too.
They're trying to raid schools.
My wife works. She's a employee for Sharon School District, and they got an email. All the employees from the school district got an email saying if ICE comes up to the school, don't offer any information. Just send them straight to the front office. Wow. So it's crazy.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And then just the other night, we wrapped this up. There was the announcement of 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
Canada ain't playing,
bruh.
Canada came back with a vengeance,
bruh. Syrup is about to be $900 a bottle. Ain't nobody eating pancakes ever again.
Don't nobody even drink Canada Dry, but this
right, you can't eat Canada Dry. Canada Dry is gonna be like $30 a can. Clearly Canadian. Clearly Canadian's gonna be on the black market. I mean, it's and our economies are intertwined.
Absolutely.
We literally send parts and cars back and forth to finish building them. between Mexico and America and Canada, you really can't even like build a car without moving between those three countries. And like they said, we are strong economic partners. So that Justin Trudeau, he got on last night, was like, I'm giving y'all a 25%.
Right.
You know, and he's like, well, there's going to be some pain. Well, not for you because you're rich.
I mean, so what's behind the tariffs on Mexico and Canada? I mean, what they do to us? Why did he put the tariffs on them?
Again, I think it's like a shock and awe kind of a thing, number one. And to a point, I read one commentator, who said that Trump has this delusion of going back to like the 1800s before there was an income tax, where the government's income was primarily tariffs.
Right.
But I mean, that was like ships and stuff. I mean, you know what I mean?
He did talk about getting rid of federal income tax.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it's just like, you know, this pays for our roads and, you know, all kind of different, you know, I mean, obviously.
It's a far more complicated economy than the one that he dreams of, you know, 150 years ago or even 70 years ago. It's just it's a far more complicated economy and economic system. It is really a global economy. And I know that nationalists, it's like nationalists versus globalists. You know what I mean? Like national, just my nation, just America first. We can't build everything we need. Right. You know, we cannot, and we will not. And Mark and I talked about that with Mo last week. You know, we can't build everything we need. You know, let me know who those farmers are, those white patriotic farmers or whoever you are. Not picking on white people. Anybody who's patriotic, go pick me some strawberries. Go get me some. You know, because how in the world is that going to, you know, there's no good end. And what you call temporary, and everybody has made this mistake. Obama made his mistakes with cash for clunkers and some of the things they tried to do to drag people out of the recession. Biden's made their mistakes. I did think they went a little far, not being discerning. I think it was an emergency. You couldn't really say who he was going to write a check to for the, you know, the payouts during COVID and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But this, to me, is on another level because this is the entire economic system, not just one segment, not just the car industry or bailing out banks or trying to get people through a pandemic. You're literally trying to set a new economic agenda by force.
Right.
And forcing us to pay 45, 50% more on everyday goods when we were just starting to see inflation come down.
The stock has
So here's my question, because I want to segue, because our meme of the week is going to go right into this. So I'll just segue right into this. Here's my question for thought. For those of you at home, and we know we're on a slight delay, so take a moment and type your comments. Would it have been better if Trump had simply gotten reelected the first time? And we would have been through with his 8 years, but also all of the consequences of his failure to control COVID, the inflation that followed, would have been on him. Mm-hmm. Would have been on him. And I don't think they would have won him more terms and all that junk, you know, even though there were a lot of organizations out there during COVID, like giving their presidents and chair people extra terms because they didn't get a real term and all that kind of stuff. I remember Reverend Simon actually turned it down with the NOBDA, you know, because they were like, hey, you didn't really get to have your real full term. Yeah. But I wonder sometimes, would it have been better? Because we ended up with 12 years of him instead of 8.
Because we never really got rid of him.
And as we know how delayed the effects of poor policy is, the inflation shot up as soon as, you know, Biden came into office. And so he was to blame for it. But at the same time, if Trump had to suffer under that, you know, that probably would have weakened the Republicans and actually ushered us in too. So, I mean, tell me what you think. What do you think, Big Mike?
I think he would have won the second election if he just shut up. I think a lot of people got tired of the rhetoric.
He ruined himself, especially in a time of tragedy.
Right. And now I think, okay, the first time he wanted to do more, not saying he was tied down, but he listened to a lot of the advisors. I think this time he's not listening to anybody.
No, he's totally surrounded himself with yes men.
He's just doing it how he wants to do it, and he's just overloading.
Mariah said it would have been better to get in his 8 years over because now we are possibly being set back in major ways. And again, I'm not saying that he wouldn't be doing all this, what he's doing right now 4 years ago, because he probably would be. But I think being hamstrung by COVID in a little way kind of does limit in some ways what you can do when you have to manage a crisis. You really can't like fight about DEI too much. And I mean, you know, you can't go too far. You know, I'm not saying you can't. Let me just stop because you can't underestimate these people at this point. You can't underestimate what they can do.
But you are right. He's surrounding himself with people. You know, hopefully Kennedy don't get in. Hopefully they.
Oh man, this guy.
What's the other lady? The
brainworm dude. Tulsi, and then Tulsi Gabbard is a doggone Russian agent.
Yeah, she's definitely a spy.
She's that like bad. What was the bad woman from? What was like Rocky and Bullwinkle and like the Russian lady? That's who I think of. This for my old schoolers out there. She was like the Russian villain from Rocky and Bullwinkle. I'm like, how is this lady about to be over the doggone intelligence agency?
She was Democrat at one time.
She's Democrat, then she turned Republican or whatever she is. And she's like super cozy and apologetic for like the Putins of the world, would not say Edward Snowden was a traitor to the nation, refused to answer the questions.
Refused to answer.
I'm like, this is insane. You got a Fox News dude.
Kennedy couldn't answer no medical questions.
Oh, this cat. Thank you, Pastor Kid. Natasha, exactly. Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle. That's my name for her.
Yes.
That's my name for her.
Yes. Natasha was.
Carol Martin said, I think so. The time period between his first election and this one has enabled those around him to gear up for this. Trump isn't smart enough for a lot of this, but he's got people around him who can manipulate the system. And you're right, because they actually tried to force him to these official appointments the first time. And he fought. We didn't like them, but at least they tried to have a semblance of going by, even though they were using the Constitution and the laws in the conservative, ultra-right-wing way that, you know, they believe in. Now he's got people who are just like totally unprepared outsiders to a destructive degree. I mean, a doggone Fox News host is over the military. We had like a 4 or 5 star general over it last time. And mistakes and all, you just can't make up for no qualifications.
But I have a problem with half of these right wings will not stand up, though. Half of them know half of this stuff is wrong. Half of them know.
But again, they did. Oh, they did. They're scared. It was said that everybody knows that to go against any of Trump's appointments or things that he wants to do is a career killer. Yeah. It's a total career killer. Just ask Lynn Cheney.
Yeah. They did have the one guy who basically said that he agrees that, you know, anybody who done whatever they done on January 6th was wrong. I can't remember his name. Yeah, it was wrong.
But he said it after they all got set free.
Yeah, after that.
And like 3 of them already got rearrested. One got shot and killed by police. Mm-hmm. Another one got arrested for something again already. You want to talk about emboldening people. You know what I mean? You want to talk about emboldening people.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is it? You know, I don't even know, but I know it wasn't a Fox News host, Scott. I know that much. You said Air Force One is an old plane. I'm just saying, listen. Yeah, he already got to his 3 scoring 10, right?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, all right, well.
Yeah, well.
Let the Lord have his way. So in light of that, here's our meme of the week. Go ahead and just hit the theme song just so I can drink some more tea. But here's our meme of the week. And this is in honor of the discussion tonight because this is what we voted for. So here we are.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
Thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
We are. These are all jokes. We are just playing.
So we're going old school with this meme of the week. Not a video of another choir singing about TikTok. You know, this is old school. And if you feel this pain, because I know I felt it in the grocery store, and I might have to make a life change. Go on ahead, Mike. Throw it up. I didn't choose this life. This life chose me. Slanging eggs, Doc. Slanging eggs. Bruh. You want a dime bag of eggs? Have you seen the price of eggs?
$8.
Brother.
I just bought some.
I actually bought some more these weird organic things that I never would buy. It was like free range organic. I don't even know why they were cheap. The chickens were probably live inside of the eggs, but they were like $4.79 or something like that. Maybe like $5.20. And I'm like, this is a steal. That's what I'm saying to myself. This is a good deal. on
and
eggs.
the bad thing, Christian love eggs. I'm like, this can't be like eating like
too.
6 eggs at a time. I'm like, dude.
He drowned them like Rocky. He making like egg.
Yeah. I mean,
Egg
he
yolks.
just, scrambled eggs, man. I'm like, bruh, you limited on eggs.
Right.
You get 2 eggs per day.
Cut them suckers in half. Freeze the other half. I mean, the mobile market has eggs for $3.79.
Yeah, we do. We got some.
I'm
of
about
the
to find
cheapest
out where they're
eggs
gonna be
around.
at tomorrow. I'm gonna go there before I go to his
some of the
funeral.
cheapest
They
eggs
go ahead and
around.
knock me out. But I mean, you see, Marlon was on the corner selling ounces of milk earlier. Now remember, while we want egg prices to go down, your man is renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Who voted for this? Who voted for this?
I can't.
And again,
dude.
you know what he actually said about that? He actually said, well, there's not much you can do about inflation anyway, and people understand that, so they just really want me to go after immigration. After the entire, half of the agenda was, I want to bring down the price of everything.
Prices. That's right.
Now he's like, I really can't do that.
Ain't nothing that went down.
We know you can't. You know why? Because you can't send soldiers to the grocery store and force them to lower prices like you can send them to schools and to farms.
And I went grocery shopping yesterday. I went to pull out my debit card. I had to get my credit card out. I said, this ain't gonna work.
I had to increase my line of credit on my house. I had to call the bank. Like, hey, I need an increase.
Chris was like, can I get this big box of cereal? I was, no.
Brother,
that big box of cereal was $30.
Go get them Tostios.
Cora Jones said, slinging eggs.
Slinging eggs for how much? Listen.
I want to bake a cake.
You want to bake a cake? You put your life in danger trying to make a pound cake. Shamika about to go to jail on some RICO charges.
That's it.
We got a whole vertical operation going on. I mean, it's crazy to see what we're seeing. And, I just hope that we find out, and I say this across the political spectrum, that policy can create problems and policy can solve problems. It really can.
It can.
But there really are issues that are beyond any administration, and whatever your political view is, there are always going to be difficulties no matter what angle you're coming at it from, whether you're a pacifist in war or whether you're a war hawk. It ain't going to stop terrorists from being terrorists.
Right.
You might feel like you killed more. They keep birthing more terrorist babies, so apparently we have 40 years into this, and they're still going. And the same thing goes for the economy. I mean, yeah, I do think some policies have an effect on it, but do I really think Joe Biden was personally responsible solely for inflation? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I wouldn't say that Trump is solely, except for these tariffs. Now, if he wasn't doing this tariff thing, I would not sit here and say, well, he's solely responsible for the inflation. But I would say that both of them are factors, and they have to acknowledge that there are other factors. But people don't want to hear that, and Trump says the simple things that people don't want to hear.
But I would say, like you just said, he's not solely responsible, but he did, and he has made promises that he's going to bring it down, and you haven't done that.
Jason said he's coloring potatoes instead of eggs for Easter. We're going to have a rock coloring.
Man, I just bought a bag of potatoes for $10 from Aldi's.
Bruh.
From Aldi's.
From Aldi's.
Wow.
Mariah said, I'm just going to the food drives at this point. Listen, Mariah went from having the food drives to going to the food drives. She's like, I ain't got no food either. What you talking about?
Everybody, food drives going to start costing.
Exactly. Shoot, we have a VIP line at the food drive.
Yeah, it's getting crazy, man. It's getting crazy.
Yeah, Easter's going to be hip, man. Ain't going to be no Easter egg. Well, it's plastic eggs, so you ain't got to worry about that. But, since they all come from Mexico, they're going to cost
Man, y'all better go back. Y'all better go back to old school when you fried bologna.
Listen,
fried
we already
bologna.
there. Government cheese.
Fried bologna, you put that little slit in there, the little bubble in
Listen,
there. Yes, sir, Doc.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
I'm trying to tell you, that's where it's at.
They're like, what's for dinner? Ramen noodles.
There it is.
Ramen noodles. That's it. That's all. Well, we want to thank our sponsors
Kool-Aid.
for supporting our Kool-Aid with the extra sugar. We want to thank our sponsors, the Phillips family of businesses. Phillips Care Lawn Services, been in business for over 10 years. They will take care of everything concerning your lawn and your lawn care. If you want to get ready for early spring, I think a couple of the groundhogs said that we're going to have an early spring. I think the real one, the rest of them are imposters, but Puxatawny Field said we're having 6 more weeks. So you might as well go on ahead and get ready to sign up for your cutting, your hedging, your trimming, all that stuff. Phillips Lawn Care, 330-219-79 7916. And while you're at it, might as well get ready for some spring cleaning with Phillips Care Cleaning Service, residential and commercial cleaning, floor cleaning, basic cleaning, deep cleaning, carpet upholstery, wood floor, moving in and move out, and all sorts of different building and home renovations and repair work. Call Phillips Care at 330-219-7916 or look up Phillips Care online at Phillips Care LLC on Facebook. Planning the perfect event? Look no further. At Anix Events, we've got everything you need to make your event unforgettable. From stunning tents, comfy chairs, and all the extras, we've got you covered. Super Bowl parties, graduation parties, corporate events, and of course, church banquets and anniversaries. We cater to all. Plus, our friendly team will handle the setup and breakdown so you can relax and enjoy the day. Call Anix Events and let's make your next celebration a hit. Mention the Religiously Incorrect podcast and receive 10% off your first rental. Call 330-979-2909 or visit annexevents.com.
All right.
Mike, I want you to record that and just play that recording from now on, because that was about as perfect as it's going to get.
That was good.
That was good.
That's about as good as it's going to get.
You got the script memorized now.
I got, almost, you know what I mean? I'm a little mad that I couldn't get through 2 words of a sermon without coughing, but Annex Events gets my best performance. So you must be more anointed than Second Baptist Church.
See, this is why I like y'all doing them live, man, 'cause we add on to it later.
You never know, right? You never know what you'll get. Here comes the cough. So
I just need to throw this out there because I think Marlon just put it out that Aldi's just ended DEI, today. I think he said today. Listen, we have sold our democracy at the cost of convenience. We continue to go to these places who have showed you their race card and just, because it's right around the corner.
But what do you do when everybody does it?
Well, I mean, everybody ain't doing it, though. It's just as many who have held on than those who haven't done it.
Man, ain't nowhere to go shop that got DEI still but red and white. Red and white. Supermarket are the only place you can go.
Hey,
in Rose Beauty.
You can get some pig feet and some fake Jordans at the same time.
But they'll treat you right. They'll treat you right. And they'll hire your drug head cousin to work behind the counter. So I'm taking my dollars to red and white.
Yesterday, it was like, do I go down the street to Giant Eagle and bypass Walmart when Walmart is right there? And I did. I can't.
You marched down there singing "We Shall Overcome."
I can't do it. You know what I mean? I've never been a Target shopper. I don't like Target.
I never got the Target hype. I really didn't care about Target.
It's garbage. I hate Target.
It's just like a fancy Walmart to me, and they play on that. Y'all thinking y'all.
I don't think it's fancy.
It ain't fancy. Y'all really think y'all doing some high class shopping at Target? Buying some wooden spoons and stuff, man. Nobody think about that.
I can't stand Target. I just won't do it.
Spend your black dollars with black businesses. Okay, well, show me a black grocery store. The mobile market.
The mobile market. That's it.
We should be selling out every day now.
We should be.
So that's the pivot that we're making. In light of what we said about the new presidency and the world that we're in, I did an interview the other day that aired this morning when nobody gets up about Black history and the importance of it. And a lot of that, Mac did. Glenn wins tonight. Glenn, you won, Pastor Glenn.
Oh my God.
He said, I need to do a Mac bid for eggs. That is comedy. I'm gonna start putting eggs on eBay.
That is hilarious, Glenn.
That was a good one. So how do we respond? I mean, you can't spend your whole life ranting and raving, even though it is certainly therapeutic. And let me just throw, before I say you can't live your whole life ranting and raving, there is still an importance to not becoming normalized nor silent to what we know is abnormal.
And I think
not because he's a different political party,
right?
But because of the agenda that is being pushed.
And you said it, and you just asked a question because this is a question that gets asked more often than not. What can we do? What should we do? Being quiet is not one of them. Being silent is not one of them. Listen, they always say, we have people say all the time. I hear, if I was back in the civil rights days, listen, you would do exactly what you was doing now.
You would have ran.
If all you was doing was scrolling and civil rights, scrolling right now, all you would do would be scrolling.
You would have
back
ran
then.
at the first bark.
Absolutely.
You would have been gone.
People have to. I mean, seriously, I know that I'm with Action. I know I talk about, listen, we have to organize. We have to galvanize. You have to call your councilman. You have to, your states, your senators.
Don't call me.
You have to call somebody. You got to do something.
Don't call me. I'm calling you.
I mean, you can literally get 20 of your neighbors together and call your senator and say, we got $20 a piece we want to give to your campaign fund. Come sit here and listen to us.
You need 20 neighbors that care enough.
Well, yeah.
Mo said the mobile market doesn't meet all my needs, unfortunately. Well, I'm sorry we don't have Grey Goose on the mobile market, Mo. I apologize for that. But maybe next round,
they working on
we'll add a state liquor store trailer on the back of it.
So wrong.
So that you can have all your needs met. That I need a little sippy and this Lipton iced tea ain't doing it. No,
we can just start giving out shots on the mobile market.
Listen, you gonna need shots to get through this.
Shot.
Right. But check it out. We do have to strategize.
We do.
Organize, and find ways to turn. And I said it last Sunday in my sermon. God has really given us everything we need. We have to empower ourselves.
Absolutely.
Even as something as simple as talking about Black history, for instance. Mm-hmm. Well, they're canceling this and they're canceling that. And they're doing that more at the federal level. All of our schools, as far as we can see, a lot of our schools, especially in urban communities, are still doing the celebrations, the churches, the community, which is where it should be.
Right.
And I've always maintained that a certain comfort with government affirmation of values, of celebrating culture, can become almost like a drug to us, to where we start resting in the fact that they're kind of alongside of us, as if they were ever genuinely on our side.
Absolutely.
And the corporations go along with this too. Let's just be clear. DEI was like a Simon Says thing at a certain point. There were some people who were genuinely committed and had been, before there was a George Floyd, to diversity. And they just saw the value of it. They wanted the best talent. They wanted, that's the tea coming up. Not to say, I just want to hire a bunch of unqualified Black folk to say I got them in here, right. But that I know that Black people, females or whomever, are not getting the opportunity, so I want to at least try to level the playing field. But a lot of people just chased the trend because it just felt good to say that you were going to be more sensitive to African Americans and all this stuff around George Floyd. Lift every voice and sing, playing over the loudspeaker and all this other stuff. So we have to be careful that we don't get tied down, to these things. And there's a lot of things as a Christian and as a Black man that we have leaned too much on the government for.
Absolutely.
And the larger society for. Yes. When really being both of those things, first of all, being Black and being a Christian and trying to be a genuine Christian that actually loves Jesus and loves people and doesn't want to throw people out of the country or jail everybody, that you actually are countercultural and never quite accepted by the larger society. So it's almost good in a way. Absolutely. To know who's really on your side and who's not.
Yeah.
And to have responsibility for yourself. Now, I'm not saying we don't need diversity and we don't need these doors open and we don't need people in key positions, because we do. And it's harmful when they're removed from those positions or they're neutered in those positions. But at the same time, sometimes the reality is we're not going to buy Black until we're forced to.
Right. And like you said, sometimes you have to put the onus on the family, mm-hmm. on the church,
on the community. Yep.
You talk to yo that one crazy uncle. Did you really think it's crazy, but really got some knowledge about what went on? Yeah, he really knows what's really going on. That one who really set through some of this struggle. Mm-hmm. You think these stories he's telling you is crazy? Nah, dude, been through some stuff.
Right. And I appreciate you saying that. And it's not to create a struggle between oppressed people, so to speak, or Black against anybody else. But Mariah said, truth be told, DEI isn't really about Black people. The number one recipients of DEI benefits were white women.
White women, yeah. Well, I think we're number 7.
Right. I was told 20 years ago, when I was a young banker working for a U.S. bank, that the most dynamic growing demographic that they would be honing in on would be the LGBTQ community. Mm-hmm. because that was just a growing demographic. They could see the trends of a lot of attention, and wherever attention is going, money is going in that direction. Absolutely. In those days, before we have this modern world we are in now, it was assumed that most of them would be single and have more, or childless, I should say, and have more disposable income. And so it's like some of these things that we hold dear as a door open for us, we're just a part of, and sometimes a smaller and smaller, no matter what group we become a part of, we're always the minority in that group.
Right.
And so I respect genuine efforts at DEI, and I'm not mad that other peoples and people groups are included in DEI. I'm not mad about that, but I'm mad about the fact that that is being instantly weaponized, and it's become a trend. Come up with a term that people either don't understand or are committed to misrepresenting. Right. It was CRT, it was woke, and now it's DEI. And now it's just however we can say the N-word as many times as we can without actually saying it.
Right.
So we have to put the onus on us, and maybe life has been too comfortable too long. We did have too many choices. Maybe we need this many people to pull out. Maybe we need this many people to show their true colors. Because, the boycotts existed and thrived in a day when that was the only choice.
Right.
The problem is we went through decades of growing and growing choices, which weakened our capacity to actually galvanize when somebody wasn't doing what they were doing. Like you said, you could just drive down the street past Walmart to the Giant Eagle, or whatever the grocery store is in your area. But what if every store you go to has the same beliefs?
But then to that point, Pastor Todd, I get to the point where people have said so often,
K1 said, what's the N word? It's nagger.
But I get to the point where people say, well, maybe we need to struggle. But I think we've struggled enough. I think we went through some punishment.
Me and you?
Us, our people.
But I might agree with that. Yeah, but we're detached from that, and it shows. Look at how much we talk about young people not appreciating the struggle. Look at how many people are unaware of their own history outside of Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King.
But is that not what they fought for?
What do you do when you don't appreciate what they fought for?
But I'm saying, you're saying they don't have enough struggle, but we fought so that they didn't have the struggle, right? Is that not why they fought?
But it's like a spoiled child, man. You try to make life too easy for them, and that turns against you. It turns against you. And as I've said before, the DEI is not, thank you, Brother Carroll, is not designed to just put a bunch of people that are unqualified into positions just because they're black or female. It's to give an opportunity to people who are often overqualified and, as I said, and overlooked, an actual opportunity to have some semblance of an opportunity. And it hasn't been that long since you could have that kind of opportunity. But at the same time, it's like the Rooney Rule in the NFL, which was designed to force teams to interview black coaches because there weren't enough black coaches. So they would just bring in any old guy or disappoint some very talented brothers that they had no intention of hiring. And so I think that we have to be mindful.
It's about to be a Bronny James.
Bronny James is going to be the coach of the Lakers since he can't play. But I mean, so the DEI thing, these corporations were never for us. And that's why I'm almost embittered towards these outward displays of so-called acknowledgement. If you don't support DEI and don't believe in equity and inclusion, and then just go ahead and leave your Black History displays at home. Don't even put them up. Because that's what, as far as black people were concerned, can't speak for women. Of course, they wanted rights for everyone. So here's but we wanted an opportunity.
Here's the thing, because this is one of the things I heard when they're talking about this, that a lot of these say there's a lot of these authors, a lot of these lip gloss people who have actual contracts with places like Target. Now these are Black-owned businesses.
Yeah, yes.
So
I'm not saying
they say don't stop. Yeah, well, I'm just saying, they're saying don't stop, supporting us because. So then you need to give us a strength. Like, how can I bypass Target to still get your book?
I agree, and some have the mechanism to do that, But the whole reason that retail and people fight to get into retail is that you just can't match the broadness
Absolutely.
of walking in to a place and being a part of that impulse buying or seeing your display out there. And people are not as intentional, no matter how much we wish we would be. People are not as intentional unless it's in front of them. There are black bookstores and websites and all types of places to buy books. But even though I'm an avid reader and I love to collect black books, I just don't go searching for them on a regular basis. But when I was walking around New Orleans at Lock Carey Convention the year before, and I went into a mall and just happened to run into a black bookstore, I would just went in there and started spending my money because they were there.
Right.
You know, or at a street fair in New York, and I just happened to run across, my wife and I were in Harlem some years ago and just walked across a street fair, and some displays were up, and I'm telling them about my boys group and the black boys reading. I'm grabbing a few books and so there is some merit to that. Some people have said, well, here are the brands that are in Target. If you go to Target, just shop those brands. Now, you know, good and well, if you go and shop those brands, you're going to get some milk and some, you know, a new charging cable for your phone too. But again, there are some forces that might have to force us to re-examine our comforts with people and systems that were never on our side. And maybe there is a new ingenuity that we need to develop, because everything that once worked may not work now, because just like I said, Trump is delusional about the economy being what it once was in the 1800s and tariffs. We too cannot be delusional that marches or a year of boycotts or whatever, because we are in a much different economic situation, and it's not a mom and pop grocery store or a regional grocery store. You're talking about a conglomerate that is already designed to withstand. And by the way, we live in a world of backlash, where if we say we're boycotting, then those on the opposite side are going to up their support and make a campaign out of it and
Absolutely.
turn Target into a doggone Target gun range, and they won't miss a beat.
I agree with you, but I also think that there has to come a time that we have to be willing to be uncomfortable. We always talk about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King says that he was nonviolence, direct action. And that direct action was about not using his fist, but withholding his finances.
But to your
so
point,
where do we withhold our finances from?
And to your point, though, we get stuck on the nonviolent part, which is admirable, but I never hear people say the direct action part.
Right.
I've never gone to a Martin Luther King Day service. It's no knock on my fellow preachers or anything, but I've never gone to a service of any type, of any place, not just locally, where they talked about the direct action part. They only talked about the nonviolent part, which to me is it's feckless. It's weak to paint him that way. I don't say we mean to, but we just sort of omit it. So it might not be dollars necessarily, but again, direct action might be a more disciplined life that requires something of us.
Yeah.
And that's the part where we have to ask ourselves, how much do we really care about blackness in our culture? Because the truth of the matter is, most of what we claim that we would be boycotting is a bunch of crap we don't need anyway. It's a bunch of stuff that's holding us back from our economic stability and dreams, then leaving a heritage and a legacy, and I'm right in that camp with you. Most of the stuff I would be claiming to boycott these stores for, outside of necessary groceries and gas, we got closets full of stuff. We can go years without buying anything new and be fine.
Indeed.
So if we, in one of the most prosperous times in our nation, I know economic inequalities and we don't have as much as our parents had, but we got more storage units and sheds going up everywhere, so we got something.
They are everywhere.
Lord have mercy. We need to do a show about that.
Right.
What is going on with these storage facilities?
Oh, yeah.
Are they hiding bodies or something? I mean, what is the immigrants living there? I don't know what's
storage wars.
Right. But what I'm saying is, I just believe that there might be a need for forces to force us into a place where we not only find out who they really are, but we find out who we really are.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. A lot of talking, and I'm not knocking this, but at what point do we shift the narrative and the practices of our own? I'm still listening to people say this. Okay, I'll say about we're right there. I'm not saying anybody different than anybody else. We about to rent a hall for a banquet too. But we always say, why don't we pay our own for some of these things? And the first answer will be is, well, we don't get the right treatment or customer service or the quality. And we rented so-and-so's building and it wasn't a It wasn't a classy thing, or it wasn't professional or whatever. So we go back to the other people.
Absolutely.
So at what point will we at least be willing to put up with each other, to pay each other, to send a message to anybody else? Even if it is not the greatest experience, I'd rather have a subpar experience with my own people than give somebody else money for what I think is a better experience, even though them folk don't like me any better either. You know, they're laughing all the way to the bank with my check. While I'm taking advantage of their service. And I'm telling the other guy who owns a hall or who owns a space.
But how come we can't, you know, sit at the table with said person and say, listen, man, we want to spend our dollars with you, but you need to step it up. Yeah, you need to step up your game, bruh. You know, if you added this, and this, we'll even help you add this.
Okay,
this,
well, you just said it, but that's an important thing. Is most black-owned businesses don't garner the capacity from us solely to be able to provide some of the quality extras that we would like to see and that we experience other places.
Absolutely.
Remember, any black-owned business, I'm talking about from the guy that owns a funeral parlor all the way up to the person like a Tabitha who has products in a retail store. Mm-hmm. Their capacity, their sales solely off of us do not support what they need. And that they've only got a piece of the market. So are we willing to keep spending while they're growing? Are we willing to keep spending while we're being disappointed? Are we willing to keep spending while they are upping their quality and finding the right workers? And we all know that we are the worst for each other, so we don't work as well for ourselves as we would. So you'll go and break your back at a corporation and then get hired at the local restaurant or the local, retail shop and be any old kind of way. Or because that other place is so large, you just think, well, they're just another cog in the wheel, another terrible worker. But, your mother-in-law's shop is that one person, that one kind of shop, and they ruined my experience and I'll never go back. Right. So I do think that there needs to be some thinking and strategy and then realism behind it. The realism is if we choose to shop at the mom and pop grocery store or the local retail establishment or off the mobile market or whatever, or we choose to rent from the church that owns the banquet hall or the black man that has the event space, it won't be as good right now.
Right. And not only might not be as good, it might not be as cheap.
Certainly won't be as cheap. You have to understand. It's impossible to be as cheap.
It's impossible. You got these people buy in bulk. So if they're buying such and such a quantity, they're going to be able to sell it cheaper.
Right. And we're buying our food from Red and White because they're the only D&I grocery store left. So we buy our banquet food from Red and White and cook that chicken for you. What was false news? I didn't know.
Tomlin being.
Yeah, Tomlin ain't going nowhere. He's fine.
Who?
Mike Tomlin.
Oh, nobody care about Tomlin.
Get out of here.
They got another conversation going on.
Okay.
I got you. I'm about to say, man, you about to start a whole another black history argument right now. But to the other side of when you talk about preserving history, when you talk about they're not telling our story, they're not supposed to.
And if they do, they're going to do it wrong anyway.
I remember them little blurbs in our textbooks. It was like a paragraph. One little paragraph on August 28, 1963, Martin Luther King, you had the Montgomery bus boycott. They might tie in like Dred Scott decision. I remember exactly how they would teach it. The Dred Scott decision, and then they overturned it with Brown versus the Board of Education. Martin Luther King comes along, Rosa Parks sat on the bus, then they killed him.
Yeah.
All right. And so we are sitting on all this knowledge. We are sitting on all this expertise. And we choose to fill our minds, our heads, and our children up with a bunch of foolishness. And I mean, I said it to my church this morning, and I know it sounds like a dream, but I'm the type of person that you can call me a dreamer if you want to, and I'll be at Lowe's with a hammer and nails and putting it together. We used to have like a little library of like Bible books and stuff downstairs in the basement. It served its time. It was really old. Everything was, getting bad. And we kind of just dismantled it and, moved it out the way. I said, we might have to go back down in that basement, set a wall as, just dedicate a wall and get some cheap bookshelves. You can donate them. Everybody probably got them in their basement that they don't want. And just say, if you got a book at home, or we know some of our elders that have books, my Aunt Jenny got 1 million of them all over her house, and say, hey, give me 50 of those books. We're going to create a Black History little library right here. If for nothing else, then to keep the books in a safe place so that they're preserved for a generation. I'm not saying it's going to be this utopia of education all of a sudden, but if you're worried about these mobs going to schools and libraries and making sure that hundreds of books are pulled off the shelves just because they talk about diversity or slavery or whatever, then we're going to be the ones that have to invest, even if it's not money, the time and the effort.
And how about us, particularly us as Black Baptists, Black preachers, period.
Right.
Don't just preach Black history in Black History Month.
That is very true. Even though I am doing it right now, but
so am I. But I mean, I know you and I know myself. You know, we don't need a month, a day, a Sunday to teach Black history.
And there are so many ways to integrate it without just sitting down and doing some lesson. Like I'm integrating this into my sermons. It's not, I'm just here to talk about being Black.
Right.
I'm not here to just talk about being Black. I want people to be saved. But I'm not going to sacrifice my Blackness at the altar of, correctness or comfort for certain people. Scott says the model is the Jewish community. It's not about retail, it's about investment. I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. It is about investment, and it's about diversifying what we consider a Black business to be.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, and there's no knock on your mother-in-law, for instance, but all we talk about is the Black clothing stores. Or the person, Tabitha, God bless her, the Black spices and all that kind of stuff, or Black products. Mm-hmm. But what we don't talk about are like Black technological firms, Black medical suppliers.
I've heard of this. What's that rub they be giving out? The Black rub. I can't think of what it is. They used to sell it in here. You mean like the African soap stuff or the Black shea butter? Shea butter. All that stuff? Shea butter.
Right. That'd just be real butter, man. That'd just be margarine. Crisco.
I tried it one day. I'm like, well, my legs burn.
Country Crock. They gave you some Country Crocs, what they gave you.
Shea butter.
Ernest is absolutely right. Mindset is what's important. In order for us to build, we must have economic power. To create in this system, we must create that through building foundations and funds, allow us to come together. Thank you. The Heritage Foundation is creating the agenda for 45. And I've said this forever. So what's our answer? What is our strategic answer that we're going to execute? Because this dude had a think tank. Mm-hmm. And we've done it. But here's the thing, and I'm just going to call it out. Remember when they were doing like the, what was it, big Black Town Hall on BET? And it was like Tavis Smiley.
Yeah.
What was that thing called? It was.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of what it was called.
But what we all end up doing is getting together and preaching at each other, trying to get the best sound bite. But what's the strategy when we leave here?
It has to be.
Like if all of our groups in our local area got together, for instance, and I know I get in trouble for this, or all of our churches, I know, just go ahead and start texting. Go ahead and get your little group text.
Go, because I'm ready. Yes, go.
Let's just say we wanted to exercise power once, and every group that hosts an event says this year we are only going to do that event in a Black space. All of us. I don't care what people are used to. I don't care how long relationships we've had. I don't care what kind of deal we get because they've been good to us and they always give us a discount and they look out for our needs and they accommodate us. We're going to go for it. What if every Black church says there are Black Bible study and Sunday school and VBS curriculums out there? There are Black suppliers of clergy, apparel and church supplies. Yes, what if we said we are making a intentional effort to only purchase from those Black suppliers? What if we said that we are only working with Black funeral homes?
Come on, sir. Come on.
And our own people will fight us because I don't like this one and I don't like that business owner. I don't like that one. Well, we don't like sending our dollars outside to businesses that treat us ignorantly. Don't know how to take care of us, don't know about our traditions. I do more funerals than anybody, and I can tell you, they walk in like they don't know or care what our traditions and our ways are, and I don't care what you think about certain folk. There are certain levels of service and comfort and just familiarity that comes from seeing someone that lives with you and works with you and has been around you and knows your aunties and them, and they're the ones passing you a tissue while the other folk are outside smoking.
And you don't understand that, a lot of these funerals, half of them, they getting stiffed on.
Correct.
They getting so, you know what I mean? So
we got to be fair with it. We keep talking about how Black businesses are so terrible, but we treat Black businesses terribly ourselves.
And I do agree that we have to get to a point, like you said, we have to organize, we have to strategize. But while we organize and strategize, and we also have to be realistic. We have to understand that if you are the best talker, if you got the loudest mouth, let him talk. If you are the rebel rouser, let the rebel rouser be the rebel rouser. Stop acting like, you want to be part of, you can be part of it. Everybody ain't going to be up in the front.
Play your role.
Yeah, you got to play your role. Everybody ain't going to be up in the front. But you being in the back is still part of the win.
But you got to be there.
It's part of the win. You got to be there.
But you got to be there. And we've lived through a season where it has been in our own community, isolate the speakers, isolate the rabble rousers, go out of your way to exclude, to the point of, we almost want to proclaim to the rest of the world that we ain't even with them folk at all.
Right.
And so that's damaging. And Pastor Wingfield, Dr. Wingfield, bless you, brother. Great example. How much money is deposited in white banks from black churches? I'll do you one better, because this is a part of economic discipline that the church has to lend to our people as an example. The question is not so much how much is deposited in white banks. The question is how much is withdrawn the next day. Because we'll deposit that money on Monday and that money be gone on Tuesday, because we're running on shoestring budgets and not creating the structures that allow us to be healthier and a more of an economic powerhouse because of the structure of our churches as they are. Many of our churches we're diluted, as I like to say. Got a lot of them. We're all trying to survive off the same small base of black folk that come to our church and only have so many resources to give in most of our mid-sized to small cities. And so we have to be willing to make the sacrificial but also strategic moves. And we can talk about it, but I'm not here to just say we oughta, and isn't this nice, and isn't this nice. It's only important if you actually activate it. Absolutely. It's only effective if you actually activate it. And you're correct, Roz. We need to start small. We need a plan. And I mean, literally say, and maybe that takes some accountability because we fear each other so much. And here's and here's one thing I'll say about fear, and I'll throw another word in there, and hate. Because as much as we are worried about people outside of our culture and community not wanting us to get ahead, we have to wrestle with the fact that there are too many of us that hate to see somebody else in our own community get ahead.
That's what
because we don't want to see that person's business blow up in front of our face. Absolutely. We don't want to see that person's church blow up in front of our face. We don't want to see that person able to drive a nicer car and build a bigger house. And then we feel like they owe us a certain sacrifice that we never ask of anybody else. We want them to limit their business, stay in the hood, keep their prices here, never improve their families, never send their kids to private school, never do any of the things that we don't mind the CEO of Walmart doing. But we'll tell that person who actually grew right in front of our eyes, you think you're too big for your britches. You think you're all that. You're robbing our community and you don't give back enough. And we have to stop the self-hate. Absolutely. The inner hate, where we are judging people as we're watching them make $5 more than we make. And that's literally been written about. It's literally been written about where people don't believe in you. Then they watch you succeed in spite of them. And they get on the bandwagon, and then they decide you've gotten too big. Yeah. And we don't need the white man for that.
Come on.
We do it to ourselves.
We do it to ourselves.
We don't need I haven't gotten, honestly, I took some shots back in the day. I have had people show up on my Facebook pages during the protest seasons. I'm talking 5-6 years ago. My radical, days of saying really, really rough stuff. I mean, I had white preachers refuse to speak to me anymore. I got disinvited from events. I ain't had no hate from them in the past 5-6 years. You know where I got it from?
Home.
I ain't had
the community.
I ain't had a white preacher or some constituent send me some scolding text message or inbox. I haven't had it. And so business owners, we got to be willing to let businesses thrive. So what if Rosalind is able to build a brand new building and now she's turned into a retail establishment with 5 different locations? People will look at her and say, nah, we liked you better when you were just over there struggling in downtown Warren.
Always. How many people I don't know how many people said I liked the old what's the name of the place over in Youngstown? I like the old Staples when they was over across the street when it was
right.
Come on, man.
Right. I want you to serve me ribs out the back of a house and all that kind of stuff.
Come on, man.
And if your establishment actually looks too nice, I'm gonna and then we have to treat ourselves. I mean, if this season doesn't teach us anything, it should be a re-examination of how we treat ourselves, how we work for ourselves, how we work with one another. Because if we really believe that we're all we got to start acting like it.
Once again, can I be religiously correct?
Go ahead.
Can I be religiously correct? It was, what was it? Nehemiah chapter 5. You know it. You preached it all last year, right?
Yep, correct.
When they began to rebuild that wall, with Sanballat and Tobiah, will you make an end in a day? Will you rebuild the wall with charred stones? But the people had a mind to work. We worked. We came together and we done this.
And we have to be willing to make that strategic sacrifice. Thank you. Rosalind. Listen, I'll be very transparent. I've had members of my church say that.
Wow.
I ain't kissing his backside so he can become some big shot. I'm not following that just so he can get all this credit. Literally, like, what is wrong with us? And we'll turn around. I'm not saying about me personally, but that's how we think about each other.
That's horrible.
He gets more TV interviews than me, or the congregation is bigger than mine, or the store is doing better than mine, or like you say, you're just gonna make her rich. Why don't you want to? You celebrate all these other rich black folk you don't know.
Right.
Y'all shared Tabitha's video a million times.
To be like Elon Musk and all that stuff. Come on, man.
And truth be told, some of the black people that we know who are rich to us because they're far from us, they're probably just as hated by their own folk in their own hometowns as some of our people are where they are.
Go ahead,
you know
Mike.
what I mean?
Oh, they look like
so it takes what I would call a sacrificial strategy that has to be implemented, even if it's at a small level. Yeah. And honestly, it can't just be symbolic. It can't just be a day. Small Business Saturday and Cyber Monday. That stuff works on like an international scale for Amazon.
Yeah.
But only committing to supporting a black business one time, one day a year, so you can take a picture
and say you
did it, and say that you did it.
Instagram.
That's not gonna do that. Mike says, thanks, Coach Mike. I was designing a website called Kaleidoscope that cataloged black businesses and was almost like an Angie's List of who does what. That's a beautiful idea. But the other part of the site was to put an action plan together with an overarching theme and task to accomplish every month. I love it. I think the struggle is actually doing it. Mm-hmm. All of these sound like great ideas. And Lord knows,
I've heard that whole, we putting a calendar together of what everybody gonna be doing on what day.
We're gonna do the calendar. We're gonna do the black business list. And that's, I'm not saying those are bad ideas. I think we have fallen short of the execution. And as you said, and acknowledging those who have the capacity and the competency, as I've been talking about a lot, to actually execute.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's just if black success looks indistinguishable from white success, will it be accepted? That's a good question, Scott.
Wow.
And I can only speak from my perspective since I have been black all my life. I think everybody in every situation has like an ideal that they verbalize. And I think with the rubber meets the road, your internal self and your true feelings about people and things and how you feel about yourself ultimately come to the surface. Right. And so it appears to me that mid-level local kind of success seems to be where the biggest struggle is. And that's actually sort of parallel to church. They say that the hardest hump to get over is like the 200 mark. Mm-hmm. And once you get over 200, then it kind of starts to rotate itself over and you kind of outgrow the criticism and all that. So the Beyonce success is a whole level of, well, look at those little ants commenting on Facebook. I have billions of dollars. But if you're like just regionally or community-wide succeeding, unfortunately, we make the dividing line between white and black. And we're worried about white people keeping down black businesses, but we're the ones actually deciding that if a white business in our community went from 1 locations to 5, look at how they're expanding.
Right.
If a black business in our community goes from 1 location to 5, it's who do they think they are?
They say it's the white man I should fear, but it's my own kind doing all the killing.
Holler if you hear me.
Holler if you hear me. So, I mean, that is a question, and to come from our white brother, Scott, who we love and respect, you always, in and down with the show, it's something for us to really think about internally and have real conversations about. Mo says, I'm so tired of hearing about events. Forget an event. Events are awesome, and I love putting them on. However, it doesn't help us. Thank you. We need to organize, outvote, and we have to start making them work for us. So here's the thing, to be honest, but this is back to accountability in a way. There would be something from the side of the businesses, churches, community organizations, where I think there is a certain level of transparency we need to grow in. So for instance, if we are doing a strategic effort to support black businesses, would black businesses report back to us how it's affecting them and how it's helping them? I'm not saying you have to show us your books. I'm not saying you have to get in your business. That's your business. It is your private business. And we forget that with black folk. It's still a private business.
Yes, it
Just
is.
because you know they cousin and them doesn't mean they're, doesn't mean like you have the right. I know how much money you making. No, it's not your right to know any of that. It's really not. But could they say, because of this support, and we're not numbers people, by the way, black people are not numbers people, unfortunately. We do not report numbers very much. We should be able to say, I had a 15% year over year increase because of this targeted effort. And there are a couple of things we have to be. Let me just tie back in because I'm kind of reframing what I just said. We have to be more attentive to actual numbers and metrics. And I heard Tatum say, what are the metrics for success? It's subjective. Sometimes it is, but it's only subjective because we avoid objective metrics.
Wow.
Success is only subjective to us because black people are more emotional than we are factual. And we will not sit there. That's why people come to Second Baptist and if they're new to our church and we do these church meetings and Sister Rose brings them spreadsheets out. People that have not been in a church meeting like that because they were just used to hearing the preacher get up and say, God been blessing us and look at how he's prospered us. Amen, keep giving. Where we go through, this is our percentage difference from this
Absolutely.
year. Good, bad, or ugly, by the way.
Absolutely.
Even
Absolutely.
if it's down.
Absolutely. We do the same thing.
We had a 7% decrease from last year's giving, and we're adjusting the budget for this reason. So we have to be more numerical, number one. Secondly, we have to be more long-term, meaning that these are not overnight fixes. Events don't fix things. Thank you, Mo. We have to be able to say, this is not a 3-week campaign. This is a 3-year strategy. We're going to revisit this, keep up with it, be consistent, task people, and then we have to be specialty and competency oriented where people work in the space where they are capable and we won't hate them to oblivion because they're doing what they're capable of doing.
Amen.
And if a person can do that, then show yourself. You know what I mean? To do that kind of thing, to track that kind of effort. And then what if more than one person has the same idea? It's still a free market. Let the best be the best and accept it. If you don't make the team, you don't make the team.
It happens.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like we have to rethink, and perhaps this travesty of a political era that we're in, as far as many of us are concerned, might be the blessing in disguise. I hope it is. I keep saying there are no wake-up calls anymore. And God help me if this isn't a wake-up call.
It's definitely shit.
I just need to move to Mars.
Let's touch on Mr. Bynum's idea.
Leaders have to come together and create economic opportunities for our communities. 5 positions that are housed in the church. 5 individuals that we select and we pay to work in the community. Creativity is, I 1,000% agree. And my main point that people were offended by when that article went in the paper going on almost 8 years ago now, where I proposed that churches in our local area should come together. Mm-hmm. One of the primary reasons was that so we could dedicate resources to more paid staff who can specialize in fields. I am blessed to have the freedom to serve my community 24/7. And I know a lot of preachers, yourself, especially younger ones, who are bivocational, and you do almost as much, if not as much or more, than I do. Why are you working a 9 to 5? And think of how much more you could do.
Absolutely.
You know, just the ability to be at tables, to show up to luncheons, to be visible, and not be stuck in a factory for 10 hours a day. It makes a huge difference.
It does.
It made a massive difference in my life. And so I don't care if it's musicians. I don't care if it's youth pastors. I don't care if it's community liaisons. If our churches who do have a constant, steady stream of economic, and I want to answer Mo's question, of economic strategy, because we tied spiritual ministry to community strategy, and we're willing to make the moves in both areas to do that, then I think we could better position ourselves where the spiritual side of our community and the economic side of our community could work more in concert with each other. But if the spiritual side of our community is basically struggling to survive because of our structure, and the economic side of our community are doing the same, then we're diluting ourselves. And so that was a big part of it. But there were people like, well, the anointing, God has to tell me. I'm sorry. Sometimes the bank account has to tell you when a change needs to come. I'm sorry. Sometimes the bank account has to tell you. And sometimes we take this, I'm just believing God by faith, and this is just a dry season. You take it too far. Your membership needs to tell you. I want to answer Mo's question, and I want Jeff to tune in on this. Some of you might not be familiar with this phrase. I believe very much in the talented 10th. Shoot me. I don't care. I believe in the talented 10th. I believe it's a worldwide social phenomenon.
Explain what that is.
The talented 10th means there's a 10th of us. There's a tithe.
A tithe.
Amongst the black community of highly skilled, capable, and competent individuals who should be given the lead. Doesn't mean they're given everything. Doesn't mean they become rulers or dictators, but given the lead and helping to set and execute strategy for the betterment of all of us. Let's just be clear here. We talked about this when we talked about commerce before. Everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur, but a whole lot of folk can be good workers.
Absolutely.
Everybody can't own a shop and a business. Everybody can't be the CEO. No matter how much we talk about Black Wall Street, everybody can't be that. But our community thrived when thousands of people were going to work in car plants and steel mills and GE and hospitals, and a handful and a position and a portion of us were owning businesses too. But you know who were buying all those businesses stuff? The people who worked at the GMs and the GEs, not just a bunch of that own business. So there is a talented Tim W.E.B. Du Bois. Thank you very much. Very much.
Absolutely.
And popular position because we live in this egalitarian mindset that we're all really equal, and I just kind of come to my conclusions the same way. No, you can't do math. I'm sorry. You can't do math. You can barely write. But you might be really, really, really good at that other thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you need to get to where you're good at. You know, one of the things that really excited me was when I got to speaking with Bishop Paramore about this Lifted organization. And, you know, he just brought up the fact that there are people who are in pastoral positions that need to be evangelists.
But I remember that.
They need to be paid to be evangelists. And they need to, you know, and that's, you know.
But you'd have to have the structure.
You have to have the structure, and you have to have the people that will come together to do that. And you have to say, you know what, bro, I love what you're doing at your church, but your gifting is really being an evangelist. So what I'm going to do is we're going to bring this church together, and we're going to make sure that you still get a salary, at least a stipend, for doing what you're called to do.
But you have to be willing to lay down the pride of the position.
That's the problem. Nobody's willing.
The pride of the position and the prominence that comes with it, and we haven't proven it yet. So here's the fact of the matter. If we all insist on being masters, we're all going to end up being slaves.
Doc, you just said a word there, Doc.
Because the writing is on the wall, and it's with a Sharpie. Mm-hmm. It's on the wall with the president's Sharpie. And so we can skirt around it, and we have. And you know why we did? Because we had the comfort to do so. We were not in this kind of emergency and screaming about these kind of things when I was getting bashed for suggesting that churches should come together.
Right.
So here we are, 7, 8 years later. The idea and the strategies are sitting there. And the world has changed drastically right up under our feet. And by the way, if you think the black church is safe from all this, you are sorely mistaken. Because they know where our power comes from.
Absolutely.
And we've been tacit and we've been accommodating. And there's nothing wrong with being prayerful and being seekers of unity. That is the call of God on us. But if you know you are dealing with an enemy, if you know you are dealing with someone who wants to destroy your entire culture, please don't think that they're going to go after all the black businesses, the black organizations, the black CEOs, the black people in power in the military, and not eventually come after black spirituality.
That's it.
Don't think for 1 minute that the Nation of Islam are the only folk they don't like. They don't think 1 minute that if you are quiet or not as outspoken or aggressive, that you'll be safe, because all they need to do is knock off those of us who are loud to come for the quiet ones.
That's it.
And so as long as the black church is still a meeting place for black folk, as long as the black church is still a place where black money is being, collected and spent on black buildings and black spaces where black empowerment and black inspiration is happening, sooner or later, they're going to come that way. After you came to their unity services and after you visited, and took a picture with the congressperson and all that stuff.
It's still coming. So
we either strategize and prepare ourselves, or we stay stuck on ourselves. And we keep talking about these kids, keep talking about teaching the youth. I do believe they need to learn history. We need to teach the youth. But more than that, right now, we need to show the youth.
That's it.
Show them.
That's it.
Show them what collective action looks like.
Precept and example.
Show them what strategy looks like. Those kids that came up, and those of you that are old enough to remember, you were so impressed by watching your parents walk to work instead of get on a bus and sit in the back.
That's right.
You were impressed by watching people willing to take a hose or a dog. They're not seeing anything to be impressed by with us. Nothing.
So we ain't standing up for nothing.
Nothing. What do I have my kids to look at and say, man, Dad really put it on the line for me? We're not shopping there anymore because he put it on the line for me.
Absolutely.
All of that stuff. And so I get the teaching, but there's a new lesson that needs to be taught. Is when they say, why aren't we going to the last place we went to when we had the church banquet? Why are we meeting in this? Why are we paying these people to be in their church basement because their basement's bigger than our church basement and we're willing to pay them to eat their chicken and green beans? We can say because we made a commitment to ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's not just that either. When you were on the news, but you mentioned all of us, but don't none of us live in Stonegate?
Correct.
Don't none of us live in Stone? We ain't got to fight for them, but we're fighting for a future. We're fighting for those kids who are going through, who are having fires in their house. We're fighting for those kids.
And it'll be ours next.
Absolutely.
It'll be ours next. And so it takes a rethinking and a reframing and a recommitment. And, when we look at these things, when we see these things, I'll be religiously correct for a minute. It's just the beginning of troubles. And as Scott said earlier, both parties don't have a true bench. So the scary thing is it's highly likely that the same people will continue to cycle in power, even if they're doing it from a distance.
Yeah. They'll be behind the scenes.
As long as Trump is alive, he's going to run that party.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, like I told, when I talked to Mike when I wanted to, talk about this subject. This is the first 48. This is the beginning.
The first 47. Yeah.
This is the beginning of his
of his work, of what he wants to do.
The whole 4 years.
And to the point, President Harrison, who will teach it, we must teach it by example. Not another speech. If you see an announcement made, because you're going to, I'll just go ahead and spill the beans, about an economic opportunity in our community, about financial opportunities in our community. The question is, will you get on board or will you sit on the sideline and talk about it? Create narratives of negativity.
Right.
Question your brothers and sisters' integrity and intentions. What will we do? I've been through it already. Y'all seen the news. As soon as somebody get a piece of money for us, first thing we can get is another black person questioning their integrity and intentions. First chance. Instead of covering each other and making sure it's successful,
right?
Making sure we're all at the table with it, That's what we do. So these opportunities are few and far in between.
And not when you invited everybody at the table from the beginning.
From the beginning. And
You
even
didn't
if
want
you're
to sit at the
not,
table.
you still got to support what is for the benefit of everyone, even if you're not at the initial table of strategy. And we're almost like, excuse me, I'm sorry, I was doing well. We're almost like, well, if you didn't talk to me the very first time before everybody else, I'm not on board. Nah, bunk it. If that train is rolling to glory, I don't care if I'm the last passenger on the
Better jump
caboose.
on.
I want to go to glory.
Better jump on.
That's just me. And so we have to think strategically, and it does create an embitteredness in those who have been fighters, because when you know what it's like to bring real resources and opportunities to the community, and the same people that have done a bunch of talking, keep talking, and keep talking right around the opportunity that's right in front of them, it almost degrades your motivation to continue to provide for people who have no intention of taking advantage. And so I really believe that, in more ways than one, the conditions we're living in, and some of it's panic talk, by the way, some of it, we just look for every little nitpick thing. We got to stop doing that, because they do that on purpose, and they do what Steve Bannon said, flood the zone.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning overwhelm us with negative news, even just sentiments, even just ignorant comments. And we'll talk about the ignorant comment for 3 weeks. And in that 3 weeks, they'll pass like 4 bills that we weren't paying attention to. And the ignorant comment was ignorant, but it wasn't policy. But we screamed about, what a person says in a press conference, not paying attention to how things are being signed off on, and it's affecting our real lives. And so we have to think, again, sacrificially, strategically, long-term, numbers focused. And I do believe that we should allow those who have shown the proven capacity and competency to help lead the way and put our feelings aside so that we can survive. Put our feelings aside so that we can survive.
So much. You said so much today, man. This has just been a great show. Listen, don't just read the Bible, read the newspaper.
Bible in one hand, newspaper in the other.
Come on, y'all went crazy when they said they was going to shut down TikTok, but all this stuff this president doing and ain't nobody saying nothing. Come on.
They about to march on TikTok headquarters.
Right. We got to do better.
Boycott Instagram.
Stop looking at TikTok. Get yourself a podcast.
Listen, watch us. Make us famous. But I appreciate your perspective, Jeff, and I appreciate your commitment as lead organizer and executive director of Action, and all those who have done and continue to do the work. Mr. Bynum, he doesn't talk the talk. Mr. Bynum walks the walk. He literally fights to fund Black.
Absolutely.
Black organizations and nonprofits and initiatives, and I appreciate you, President Harrison, always on the front lines.
Always.
And again, we get that everybody's not frontline people. But please stop whispering behind the scenes negative things that tear down the efforts that people are doing on the front line.
And stop sending friendly fire from the back.
From the back. Right.
Us in the front. Stop sending that friendly fire.
We want to keep this conversation going, and we're not going to rant on this every single week, in Black History Month. But I believe that, I think we got two good minds here. We have a lot of great comments. We love the feedback, the interaction. We understand that everyone doesn't agree with everything, and I feel it. I get it, respect it, but I think that we have to continue to engage in the spaces where we can and expand that space to as large as it can be.
Absolutely.
And so thank y'all for watching. Any final words, Big Mike, on the show, or any thoughts?
Yeah, two things. Mr. Bynum, let us know when you're going to be in town, because I would definitely like to have you on the show.
We will bring you in town.
Yeah, we could do it via Zoom and all of that, but it's.
I want brother here in the room.
It's a lot better if
I want him in the room.
Yeah, so let us know when you're going to be in town. Two, are we doing the after show or no? We want to talk about it first.
We might as well hang out a little bit.
Want to hang out?
Hang out.
I don't mind.
All right. When
a little time.
To everybody watching, today. About 10 minutes, we're going to go live again. Just a little something real short. So, yeah, hang tight. Hope you can join us.
Peace out, y'all.
Peace.